I didn't know much about Germany before I got here. I mean, I thought I did. I'd read that Germany is known for its castles, beer, and its dark history during World War II. Oh yeah, and you know those Kinder Egg things that are banned in the US? I knew you could get your hands on those here for cheap. I mean, who doesn't like a chocolate egg with a surprise inside? Who? The first time I stepped off a train in Germany 11 years ago, I had done my research, sure. I knew there'd be beer, doner kebab, more beer, and a good mix of pretty stuff and pretty ugly stuff. But there was so much that I didn't know, and after my long overnight ride to Berlin, it all came toppling down on me right after I left the train station. I looked as hard as I could, but standing on the sidewalk, I could not figure out where I was supposed to walk. But soon enough, a loud bike bell put me in my place, and I realized I was standing right in the middle of the bike path. Except the marking seemed to say that I should be allowed to walk there, but it was definitely a bike path. And as strange as it might sound, standing in the middle of the bike path in Germany can be a little bit dangerous. Biking is really popular in Germany, and it should be as simple as just not standing in a clearly marked bike path. But often the German bike paths are not clearly marked at all. And if it's your first time visiting, you can easily think that you're in a pedestrian area when in reality you're standing right in the middle of the bike path. And then on top of that, someone might come along on a bike not riding in the bike path, which can lead you to a whole nother level of confusion. So basically, try to be aware of bikes and bike paths, but if you hear a loud bell or Entschuldigung being yelled at you, just get out of the way as fast as you can. Like, really fast. When in Germany, it's hard to avoid the grocery store. Restaurants can be pretty expensive, and German grocery stores usually have a decent selection and some of the lowest prices you'll find in Western countries. With the high inflation over the past few years, both restaurants and grocery stores have definitely gotten more expensive. But one thing has not changed at all. Checking out at a German grocery store is something very, very similar to cattle herding. As in, the person checking out is rushed through the checkout line as fast as humanly or inhumanely possible. And if you linger, everybody will vibe you, and you just don't want to be vibed by Germans. Don't German grocery stores sound like a blast? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. But the best way to visit a German grocery store when you must is to come prepared. This means having a coin to get a shopping cart, and then being fully prepared with your payment method and a cart when entering the checkout line. Ideally, you would bring your own bags too, but you can always buy a reusable bag in the checkout line, so at least there's that. And another reason you might find yourself in a German grocery store is to buy water. In Germany, free water is not really a thing, and water fountains are almost non-existent. And restaurants will charge you as much as 15 times the price of water in the store, so the obvious solution here is to just buy water in the store. Germans take their Mülltrennung or trash separation really seriously, and they will 100% expect you to do so too. It's important to dispose of waste according to the labels you'll see on recycling and trash cans around the country. If you do it wrong, you may or may not get called out. And if you do get called out, being called out by a German is like next level. You don't want it to happen. But keep in mind that most of the bottles you'll buy in Germany come with a deposit, or Pfand, and they should be returned to a bottle deposit machine in exchange for your deposit money back. You can usually find these in grocery stores. Just follow the overwhelming smell of beer that's been spilled into the bottom of the machine. But there's one more catch to dealing with your trash in Germany too. Throwing something into a large bin can be loud, and there are strict laws in Germany that dictate when you can make noise. At night and on Sundays, making loud noise is a big no-go, and that applies to loudly throwing things into bins just as much as anything else. So especially if you'll be throwing glass into a bin, which may very well break upon impact with the other pieces of glass in the bin, you can't do it on Sunday or late in the evening. People can and will actually call the police on you for doing it. But even if they don't, the German stare is very potent, and you just don't want that. But somehow there does seem to be one exception to German noise regulations, and that's when it comes to the country's favorite sport of soccer, or fine, football. No matter the time, it's always acceptable to scream, freak out, or just make really loud noise if there's an important soccer match going on. So while you don't want to be loud normally, perhaps you do want to be loud when the game is on. It may very well be your only chance. And since we're talking about Sundays and late in the evening, it's not just making noise that's looked down upon. Nearly every business will be closed. In Germany, only a handful of businesses are even allowed to operate on Sundays. And many stores close as early as 6 or 7 p.m. on normal business days. So it's really important to plan around opening hours for things that you need to buy. But luckily, you're still likely to find restaurants and cafes open on Sundays. If you're used to most days being sunny and rain only falling occasionally, You might feel pretty out of place after a few days in Germany. I mean, I'm really lucky to have pretty decent weather here today. But Hamburg has around 190 rainy days a year and about 1,557 hours of sunshine per year. And further south, where the weather is thought to be better, Munich has about 180 days of rainfall per year and an estimated 1,862 hours of sunshine each year. In comparison, New York has around 121 rainy days a year and approximately 2,656 hours of sunshine per year. Sydney, Australia has somewhere around 134 rainy days per year and 2,426 hours of sunshine per year. But the truth about the weather in Germany is that it's usually gray and rainy just like this. Basically, there's a really high chance of gray skies and rain everywhere in Germany all year round. But if longer summer days are your thing, then Germany might still have something for you. And the weather is generally the best during the summer too. But of course, if you decide to visit in the dead of winter, you'll have to reckon with extra long winter nights, so you'd better have a good reason for coming. Lederhosen and giant beer is, contrary to popular belief, not really German culture. At least it's not representative of the country as a whole, but rather Bavaria and the southern part of Germany. So if you're looking for Bavarian culture, then make sure you actually go to Bavaria. But just because not all beer in Germany is giant doesn't mean you won't find beer in all of Germany. Everywhere in the country has its local beers, it's just that the size will vary. Now you do have a little bit of leeway with this one, because some of the larger breweries from Bavaria do have outposts in places like Berlin, Hamburg, or Frankfurt. But if you do just roll up to any old bar in Hamburg or in Berlin, do not expect Oompa music and don't expect traditional Bavarian garb. And if you're into beer or just alcohol in general, know that not everybody in Germany drinks alcohol. In fact, somewhere around 40% of Germans don't drink any alcohol at all, and that number does seem to be growing. There is definitely a culture of acceptance of people drinking alcohol just about anywhere in Germany. A beer on the train? A-okay. And if I had to speculate, this is most likely due to its place in German culture and history. But in recent years, alcohol consumption has really dropped a ton. In the past few years, Dry January has gotten really popular too. And most beers are also now available in an alcohol-free version. So with beer being a big part of German culture and a favorite among German taste buds, Germany's become an easy place to not drink any alcohol while still enjoying the beverage of choice. And in addition to assuming that all Germans will drink alcohol, there's another big assumption you'll want to avoid when in Germany. I mean, it is good to try to avoid assuming things when visiting anywhere. Once I assumed that the grocery store would be open on a Sunday in Germany, and that got me literally nowhere. I just didn't eat for a day. But that really big assumption I was talking about has to do with the language that's spoken over here in Germany. The official statistics state that a little over half of Germans speak good English. And in cities and touristic areas, you're pretty likely to find people that will speak to you in English. But the level of English spoken can really differ drastically from person to person. The youngest generations are mostly pretty fluent in English. They get it in school and they get it via the international media. But older generations will often not speak English, and the level of English can also depend a lot on where you are in the country. For example, in former East Germany, English was just not that widely taught in schools. And really the best thing you can do for yourself in Germany is to at least learn a little bit of German. But still, anywhere in Germany, there will be some people around that know some English. So if you're gossiping in English, just know that somebody might actually understand you. And yet another thing you won't want to assume in Germany has to do with time. German punctuality does sound nice, and visitors to Germany often assume that everything from trains to opening and closing times operates like clockwork. But although I really hate being the bearer of bad news, that's not really the case in Germany. Sure, if you're meeting up with someone, you do not want to show up hours late. But often, a lot of things here in Germany happen with a significant delay. And a really strong example of that is when it comes to public transport. In a nutshell, last year in 2023, regional trains in Italy were more on time than regional trains in Germany. That should tell you something. But okay, even if public transport isn't always on time in Germany, it is still pretty good. In addition to delays, there is also pretty constant construction, and that can make it a little bit hard to navigate at times. But beyond all of that, just because there's no turnstile does not mean you do not need to pay for a ticket to take public transport. In fact, if you don't pay for a ticket before boarding, you may have to pay a fine that costs a lot more. And to add to that, it can sometimes be a little bit confusing to figure out where to get a ticket and then which ticket to get, and then if you need to validate the ticket or not. But for the most part in Germany, you'll find that most public transport systems here now have pretty functional apps, and you can just get your ticket there. But public transport aside, there's another way to get around in Germany, and it's pretty world famous. Just about everybody knows that driving is very popular in Germany. but public transport is usually pretty fairly priced here in Germany, so you might not want to automatically decide to rent a car just because you're visiting the land of BMW and Volkswagen. But if you do drive here, you'll most likely be renting a car unless you have a friend with a car. And car rental companies are really serious here. I think it's really important to make sure you document any car you rent with your own video and to make sure you have full insurance coverage at all times. Unlike when you rent a car in most of the world, a tiny scratch here is very likely to be noticed and charged. And stuff like speeding or parking in the wrong spot is very rigorously enforced. I mean, I've rented a car in Germany 3 times, and I've gotten 3 speeding tickets, so that's a perfect score. In my defense, I was only going slightly over the speed limit, but there are speed cameras everywhere, and the law is the law. And if you do end up driving, do not assume that the Autobahn is just one big free-for-all with no speed limits anywhere and no rules. Common etiquette is to stay in the right lane unless passing. And drivers have this strange tradition of flashing their brights when passing, so don't let that scare you. And by the way, the word Autobahn is just a German word for highway, and many sections of the Autobahn actually have speed limits. So if you don't want to get a speeding fine in the mail and have to pay extra charges to get it to your rental company, follow the rules. But there's another rule that you'll really want to follow. See, in Germany, it's actually possible to get in trouble without having any public transport, cars, or bikes involved. It is illegal to cross the street on red, and you can actually get a fine for jaywalking. But even if you don't get a fine, you'll probably get some very dirty looks. And all of this will lead you to the existential question of, if I cross on red in the middle of the night and nobody sees, did I still harm German society? Luckily, that question actually has a correct answer. And the correct answer is that there will always be a German grandma or grandpa that will see. Don't do it. But somehow grandmas, grandpas, and everybody else is completely comfortable with everybody running around butt naked. In Germany, the right to be naked in public is known as Freie Körperkultur, or FKK for short. This translates to free body culture in English, and it's a pretty important right over here. See that beach over there? If I want to get naked and go for a swim, I'm allowed to do that. It's my right. But on second thought, I do think I'm okay. But really, modern nudism originates here in Germany. So while in the country you're watching from, nudists might just be a small minority, or it might just be completely banned to go naked in public. But Germany seems to see the right to be naked in public as a kind of core value. So if you happen to be scared of naked people, maybe do a little practice before you come to Germany. But I'll let you determine what practice means. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering about where I'm filming this video, I made another video about it for you. But I will give you a hint. I'm sitting on a balcony that's a part of the longest building in the world, and it's on the largest island in Germany. So I'll see you in that video next. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for many more travel videos. Auf Wiedersehen!